Alright, huge movie fanatics here with the solo review, to be sure, because it's a review for...
The Hobbit, an unexpected adventure.
Sorry, I'll refrain.
The movie is the first prequel to Lord of the Rings, but in the book world it was written well before Lord of the Rings was even in existence. Came out in the book, I believe, was published in 1937, and the Lord of the Rings were in the 1950s. And it takes place 60 years before the events of the Lord of the Rings. And the opening shot of the movie, which is really fantastic, in the opening shot of Lord of the Rings, you see Bilbo in home writing his book, and he writes there and back again, and he's beginning his writing of the book, and that's all you see. Well, the opening of this movie picks it up from that spot, and instead of cutting out Frodo reading his book, it picks it up from that spot where he's actually writing and narrating the book and movie of his adventure from The Hobbit. And you know what? Going back into this world, I was really, really kind of hesitant about, because I was a huge fan of Lord of the Rings.
30 hours of the Lord of the Rings movies?
No, like the Lord of the Rings were so good and so magical, and the third one was just the best. I mean, it won Best Picture. It is the best movie I've seen in ages. It was definitely the best movie of the 2000s, I feel. Without question.
Your first decade, you mean?
Yeah, even still, it's the best
Oh,
movie
for you
of
of the 21st century?
Yeah. And man, it is just a masterpiece, so like, there's no way you could even attempt to top it. And then I realized The Lord of the Rings and The Hobbits are two completely separate things. The Hobbit was written as a children's book, and tonally is completely different than Lord of the Rings. The only thing that they share is some characters, and the ring is discovered in The Hobbit. So it was like, well, it doesn't matter that it's not Lord of the Rings. And that's the biggest problem with the movie, is expectations. People go to the movie expecting Lord of the Rings, and it's not. It's not that at all. And so some people are coming out really disappointed, and it's like, this movie's gonna age insanely well. People are gonna come back to it 5 years from now and just be like, you know what, that really wasn't bad at all. Just because they're going to realize that it isn't Lord of the Rings. It's certainly a better prequel than pretty much any other one that has come out there, and it helps the source material was there beforehand, and Peter Jackson knew about it. Well, The Hobbit is mentioned, referenced many times throughout Lord of the Rings, these specific events. You just now get to see how that happened. And so yeah, I was really impressed with the movie, very much so. Guillermo del Toro's work in the movie is very obvious, very, very cool.
What's his work?
He co-wrote the script with Peter Jackson and Fran and Philippa. He also designed the creatures, and the creatures look very much like Guillermo del Toro creatures. There's the pale orc, who has legions on his face, and when he speaks, they sort of split and stuff like that, and like he's a really cool villain. The Goblin King has like this big jowl thing, and he's pudgy, and like all the villains look very much like Guillermo del Toro monsters, and I'm a fan of that. So that helped the movie. Oddly enough, the movie walks this really weird kind of line where it's aimed for children, but tonally, the monsters are so dark and gruesome that no child would be able to watch it without having like pitiful nightmares. But you know, being an adult, that doesn't bother me. So I very much liked it. The only problem that I had, and this is something I think out of all the Lord of the Rings movies, you might like this one, because you like things that sort of unfold and like
stories
take a long time.
Oh, I like things that take a long time.
Like 2001 and stuff like that. Like just things that sort of life unfolds in front of the camera kind of thing. And that is very much this movie. This is a literal adaptation of the first 100 pages of The Hobbit.
So they're breaking the book into 3 movies?
In 3 movies. Every single scene, every single line of dialogue is said, which on paper, like when you're reading, that's fine. Movies and books are very different beasts, and so every scene in this movie is astonishing. Every scene in this movie goes on too long by about 2 minutes, and this could be the best picture of the year if it were shaved down by a minute per scene.
You think there'll be an extended cut of this?
No, I'm pretty sure this is the extended cut, because the movie feels long. The Lord of the Rings movies didn't feel long. They sort of moved at a relatively rapid clip for movies about people walking. And this one moves much more leisurely, but every scene is just amazing. And I think he's also getting you used to the whole new presentation, which I'm about to touch on. The movie was shot at 48 frames per second, which is the James Cameron.
To you idiots, that means
24 frames per second is the standard US presentation for film. And so by doubling that, supposedly you get a much more lifelike, smoother motion. And you do, let me tell you, it is freaking gorgeous. It is absolutely amazing. It looks like you're looking into a window. They look like they're there. But the problem with that is, and a lot of people are complaining about this, I was hip to it ahead of time, so I dropped Dramamine, and my fiance didn't, and she got sick.
She does that too.
She doesn't get sick.
She doesn't?
And she got sick.
I thought she doesn't.
She doesn't get sick, but it looked too real. It's this same theory of reading in the car. When you read in the car, you get sick because you're looking at something stationary and everything around you is moving. Well, it's the opposite for this. Everything in front of you is moving at essentially real time. Like, it looks like they're there, but you're stationary. And when things are sweeping and moving and stuff, like, the camera isn't shaky ever. It's not like that. It's not motion sickness. But it is because you're looking at something moving, but you're stationary, so your head just, like, gets killed.
Oh my
And
stars.
even still, I had a twinge of a headache.
Even through your Dramamine.
Yeah, but I got used to it very,
how
very
many
fast.
people in the theater were barfing? Like,
Nobody did. Some people did leave and then came back and then left and then come back. So I'm assuming they had to like stop for a little bit.
okay, so the Hobbit
But it
makes you
is
sick.
so worthwhile. Like at the end of the day, like it is just so beautiful, and the 3D is just extraordinary. I've never seen 3D as good as that. So I give that a huge recommendation. If you're going to see The Hobbit at all, see it in the 48 frames per second 3D. And I went to the AMC theater at 10 a.m. on opening day, and I saw it for $8.50. 3D, 48 frames per second. $8.50. That is not
Just
bad
don't
to
eat before you go.
I didn't, so there you go. But yeah, I'm going to give the movie a very solid 3.5 stars.
Oh wow.
Very, very good movie. It's not as good as, obviously, Fellowship or Return of the King. I will say it's on par with Two Towers. I think I would watch this over Two Towers. The biggest thing that the movie had was Martin Freeman. Martin Freeman totally is the best thing about this movie. He's just extraordinary. As Bilbo, young Bilbo anyway. Ian Holm reprises his role as old Bilbo, and he's fantastic too. I love this. I will definitely see it again. My father hasn't seen it, so I'm going to take him when we find a free time. Free 3 hours. It's not 3 hours, but it's close. Anyway, 3.5 stars. Go see it. Go see it in 3D and 48 frames per second.
I haven't seen it. Thanks for watching.
You might like it.